What's up guys, welcome back to Money Grow, the channel all about making your money grow. Today I'll be going over the absolute best ways a teenager or a young adult can turn even a little bit of money into a life-altering skill set that every single human on the planet can benefit from. So I'm of the mindset that if you're under 18 or just turned 18, you should be focusing on investing in yourself and maybe using your savings to attend school, amongst other ways to reinvest in yourself and become proficient in a field or a skill in order to increase your future income. However, I'm also a strong supporter of people getting involved with investing from a young age. I disagree with the opinion that being too young or earning relatively low income equates to not having to prioritize investing. Starting as young as possible is the best way to maximize your future growth. And it's also the best way to obtain real life experience and possibly live through some mistakes. That way, when the numbers become significantly larger, you'll be able to steer your own ship successfully and you'll have hopefully trained yourself to stay the course. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Prismatic, Erica, and Andrew Paz. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. All three of you signed up as level 12 Crow investors. You are truly the backbone of this channel, and I hope you're getting a ton of value from my real-time wheel portfolio updates. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys have no idea what the wheel portfolio is, I suggest watching my previous 2 videos where I talk all about it and explain exactly how it works. If you want to be notified immediately after I make a trade, consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll have all that information listed on there, linked down below. In my description, I also have 3 different referral links that will make your money grow. Click my Webull link to get a free stock valued up to $1,600 when you sign up and fund your account with $100. Click my M1 Finance link to get $20 cash when you sign up and deposit $100. And finally, click my Robinhood link to get a free stock like Apple or Facebook when you sign up. So I'm going to go over what you should do in order to benefit yourself and gain crucial knowledge and experience that will help propel your investing journey and grow your money. We're going to be going over the 6 steps you should start taking now in order to do this. If the information in my video helps you, I would really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get right into it. Step 1 is just get started investing on literally any brokerage and by buying any stocks. Click on one of those links in my description and just get started. I personally started on Robinhood, and that's exactly what I would recommend to a beginner. Right now, don't worry about being as efficient as possible with your money. Don't even worry about making the most money that you can. Obviously, don't risk any money that you wouldn't mind losing. Maybe don't go all in on Tesla. But it's important to actually have some skin in the game and to slowly learn for yourself how the stock market actually works. And the best way to do that is by experiencing it for yourself. If you're 18 or older, you're good to start as soon as possible. If you're under 18, one of your parents or guardians would need to open what's called a custodial brokerage account for you, which will become yours when you turn 18. All right, now we're on to step 2. After you get a feel for how the market works and how you react to its fluctuations, it's really important to assess your risk tolerance. This basically just means to find out how risky you want to be with your investments. Usually, more risk correlates with more return. A really good way to find out what your risk tolerance is by looking at these portfolio allocation models that were published by Vanguard. Vanguard is one of the largest brokerages in the world, and they manage trillions of investor dollars. So they know what they're doing. They have a lot of data, and you can use it to your advantage to find out what kind of investor you are. Doing this will put you leagues ahead of the majority of investors and will educate you on diversification as well as risk and reward. So I'll go over them briefly. These first 3 pies focus on income. These are for extremely risk-averse people who don't have the stomach to lose money in the market. The first pie is literally 100% bonds, which is one of the safest asset allocations available. Investing in high-grade bonds can be simply explained as lending your money to the government or to large companies. We can see that the average return of this portfolio for almost the last century has been 5.3% per year, with the best year returning 32.6% and the worst year falling 8.1%. So as we start adding more stocks and less bonds into our portfolio, the return rises, but so does the risk. And we can clearly see that with these next two portfolios. I personally don't recommend any of these three because they're way too conservative, especially for someone just starting out investing. You won't be retiring tomorrow, so it's important to have growth, and you'll have way more time to recover if a market crash does happen. These next three portfolios are considered balanced. Again, we can see how the average returns become higher, but the risk becomes higher as well. Once again, I wouldn't recommend any of these three for someone just starting out, but I still wanted to include them in the video and talk a little bit about them. Now we get to the growth portfolios. Any one of these three are perfect for a beginner. Consider the 70% stock, 30% bond pie to be conservative if you're under 30 years old and still have 5 or more years to retirement. And then consider the 80% stock, 20% bond pie to be balanced. And finally, consider the 100% stocks pie to be aggressive. So if we look at the conservative pie, we see that the worst year's performance since 1926 has been negative 30.7%. That's almost a third of your portfolio's value. When we move on to the balanced pie, we see that the worst year was barely any worse. And the average return over all those years made taking that extra little risk worth it, in my opinion. And if we look at the aggressive pie, 100% stocks, we see that your portfolio would have almost lost half its value in its worst year. But again, the average returns are greater. So even though the average returns are only 0.7% better than the balanced portfolio, let's do some quick math with the three portfolios to show how significant that is. So let's say you're 18 years old and you want to retire 42 years from now at age 60. Every dollar you invest in the conservative portfolio would grow to $38.78. Every dollar you invest in the balanced portfolio would grow to $43.52. And finally, every dollar you invest in the aggressive portfolio would grow to $56.89. Those are enormous differences, especially when the numbers get larger and we're not just talking about a dollar anymore. Just because in the past, being 100% stocks and aggressive like this has paid off, doesn't exactly mean that the future will be the same. That's why it's important to find out if you're a conservative investor, a balanced investor, or an aggressive investor. You can always fluctuate between these three as you progress on your journey. Maybe you start out as an aggressive investor and then you move on to balance. I'm personally a fan of the 100% stock aggressive portfolio during the accumulation and growth stage, and a fan of the balanced 80% stock, 20% bond portfolio after retiring. I'll go more into why in a future video, but it has a lot to do with your risk tolerance. So now that you've determined which type of investor you are, you can move on to step 3. So step 3 is, depending on your investing goals and your investing personality, you must now decide what you're going to be investing in. It's quite difficult to maximize returns and tax efficiency all the way from the beginning, and in my opinion, it's rather mundane and a little challenging, especially if you're just starting out. So this is why I recommend looking into just a few stocks that you have a lot of conviction in and simply investing in them. However, perhaps you'd like to be a little more diversified and more efficient and begin looking into index funds. Index funds can be simply summarized as stocks that hold tiny little pieces of many different companies, or stocks that hold tiny little pieces of many different bonds. So this way, if the market as a whole goes up, so does your index fund. And if the market as a whole goes down, so does your index fund. but you take on way less risk than simply owning one individual stock. A stock index fund that I recommend is VOO. I'm going to show you a picture of what that looks like and its 5-year return. This basically contains small pieces of ownership in the top 500 companies in the United States. A bond index fund that I recommend is BND. Picture right here with the 5-year return. So you can see that the return here is much lower than stocks. But a fund like BND contains over 9,000 different bonds within it. So you're extremely diversified. When you invest in an index fund, it doesn't affect you at all that much if a company goes bankrupt or a bond falls into default, because you're invested in so many small pieces that losing one tiny little piece won't really make or break your investment. A good example to show the risk of going all in on just one individual stock instead of diversifying into many stocks or buying an index fund like we've been talking about is, say you would have put all your money in Blockbuster or Toys R Us. Your investments would not be looking so pretty right now. Now we move on to step number 4. No matter your risk tolerance, it's generally recommended that you build an emergency fund that holds about 6 months worth of living expenses as a safety net in cash in order to avoid putting a strain on your finances should you lose your job or if you have a costly emergency surprise you. I would simply park this cash in a high yield savings account. I'm currently using CIT Bank for this, but no matter what you pick, the current interest rates you'll earn won't make a huge difference for 2 reasons. Number 1, interest rates are very low right now. Most are under 1% annualized. And 2, you're barely starting out in your investing journey, so earning a couple extra bucks on your emergency fund won't make or break your net worth. If you're young enough, you might not even have to worry about this step as you're dependent on your parents to provide for you. Now we move on to step 5, which is my absolute favorite step. This is simply to play around with a compound interest calculator. I can't stress enough how important this step is. Just type in compound interest calculator in Google and click on one of the links that come up. I'll link you to my favorite one that I'll be using in this video. If you buy an S&P 500 index fund like VOO that I mentioned earlier, this basically holds tiny pieces of the top 500 companies in the US. And historically, it has returned 10% per year. So let's just play around with this. Let's say I'm 18 years old and I have $1,000 that I'm investing in VOO. And from now on, for the rest of my life, I'm gonna invest $100 every single month and keep buying shares of VOO until I retire, let's say 42 years from now at age 60. One sec. Please. If you're able to pull that off, you'll have put aside $51,400 of your own money in those 42 years. And the interest you would have earned from being invested in the stock market would have grown your total balance to a whopping $846,000. So if that doesn't motivate you to start investing, I don't know what will. And the cool thing about these numbers is that we're only contributing $100 per month. But let's say as you grow older, you start investing more and more money. So let's bump it up to $1,000 per month. Look how insane that is. You contributed $505,000 little by little throughout your whole life, and it grew to almost $8 million. That is the power of compound interest. So just play around with a calculator like this with hypothetical amounts. Try choosing a goal amount that you want to retire with and a retirement date just for fun. So let's say an 18-year-old wants to retire at 40 years old with $1 million. So how can they achieve that? Let's go back to the calculator. An 18-year-old starting with $1,000 must contribute $1,032 per month for 22 years in order to have $1 million in their account by age 40. Obviously, past returns are not indicative of future returns, but based on all the historical data we have, we can use these numbers as estimates. And technically, you also have to take inflation into account, but today we're not talking about any of that. Today, I simply want you to see the power of compound interest. Now, step 6. Step 6. This one. Now step 6. This is for the crowd that already did steps 1 through 5, or maybe you're coming back to this video after you've already done steps 1 through 5. So now we can get a little more efficient when it comes to investing. If you have a job, find out if they provide what's called a 401k match, which means your job contributes the same amount you do into your 401k retirement account. If they do, contribute enough to your 401k so that you're getting your full employer match. Usually that's something like 3 to 6% of your annual income, but double check with your employer. That's a dollar for dollar 100% return, which would be crazy not to take advantage of. After that, you want to open a Roth IRA and max it out if possible, or at least contribute all the remaining investable cash into this account. A Roth IRA is my absolute favorite type of retirement account because all the money you put into it grows tax-free, so you never have to pay taxes on your gains in the account. In addition to that, you're able to withdraw the contributions, not the gains, but the contributions. So this is all the money that you actually put in. So it's kind of like an extra savings net. So it's kind of like an extra safety net in case you're ever in a tough spot and need to withdraw some money. The maximum you can contribute to a Roth IRA in 2020 is $6,000. And if you have more to contribute after maxing that out, go back to your 401k and max that out. The limit is $19,500 for 2020. If you still have more, you're clearly doing amazing. Contribute the remainder to a regular brokerage account. No matter if you get overwhelmed or confused during your investing journey, or you're not making a lot of money right away, remember that you're starting way earlier than most and you're learning about exactly the right things that will turn you into a successful investor. This will help to jumpstart your financial future and prepare you for the challenges and opportunities to come. Again, please keep in mind all investments come with risk, and especially if you're a beginner, please don't risk any money that you wouldn't mind completely losing. I hope I've given you some valuable steps that you can use to enhance your understanding of investing. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please comment down below. I'll be reading all of them. And remember to follow all of my trades on Patreon and get your free stocks in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching until the very end. I hope you'll be back for future videos, and as always, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, and comment. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.